Welcome to our Beer U module on Oktoberfest, the world's largest fair. Oktoberfest has been celebrated in one form or another for many centuries, and it highlights a lot of beer history and tradition, some of which was created by the festival itself. On the opening day of the Oktoberfest, Saturday at 12 noon, the mayor of Munich taps the first keg and calls out, "O Saft is," confirming that the tapping was successful. This is the official beginning of each Oktoberfest. Munich's Oktoberfest is the largest beer festival in the world. It attracts over 6 million visitors each fall and serves up over 1 million gallons of beer. And despite its well-deserved reputation as a beer festival, Oktoberfest is also a very family-friendly event with lots of food and family fun available to visitors of all ages. Oktoberfest takes place in Munich, capital city of the German state of Bavaria. Bavaria is located in southern Germany near the Austrian border. The site of the Oktoberfest is called the Theresienwiese. It is a meadow southwest of the Munich city center, which has been the site of a beer festival for centuries. Early versions of Oktoberfest began back in the 1500s when Bavarians gathered in the fall to drink the last of the summer beer. In those days, all brewing was done in the cooler months to avoid spoiling the beer in the warmer summer weather. The last beer of the spring season was often brewed in March, a month known as März in German. Known as Märzen beer, this spring brewed beer was stored in cellars and caves during the summer and lasted into the fall when brewing could begin again. But brewers needed to empty their tanks and storage vessels in the fall to make room for new brews, and so the tradition of a fall festival began as a way to consume the last of the summer beer. In 1810, Bavarian Crown Prince Ludwig married Theresa of Saxe-Hildburghausen in Munich. To celebrate their wedding, horse races were held on a meadow that came to be called the Theresienwiese, or Theresa's Meadow, in honor of the new princess and eventual Queen of Bavaria. The royal wedding was a celebration for all of Bavaria, and it formalized the existing fall drinking tradition into an annual festival. Theresa became Queen of Bavaria when her husband was crowned king in 1825 and was a beloved figure due to her work with the poor, widows, and orphans. Today, many locals call the area and the festival itself the Wiesen. The year after the royal wedding, 1811, the horse races were repeated and an agricultural show became part of the celebration. Gradually, the festival began to grow. Over the years, new elements were added like carnival booths, rides, food vendors, beer tents, and even statues. And in 1896, the first glass beer mugs were used to serve beer. Oktoberfest was originally observed in October as the royal wedding took place on October 12, 1810. However, as the festival expanded, Bavarians realized that the weather could be much more pleasant if the festival was held a few weeks earlier, so Oktoberfest was eventually moved up and scheduled in September, ending on the first Sunday of October. Oktoberfest normally lasts for 16 days, or about 2 weeks, from the opening Saturday through the final Sunday. The Oktoberfest schedule changes when German Unity Day, or October 3rd, normally falls outside of its schedule. It is a day to celebrate the reunification of the former East and West Germanies, and if the Oktoberfest would have ended prior to October 3rd, it is then extended to run through October 3rd to incorporate German Unity Day into the festival. Oktoberfest has evolved over the years. There are many significant dates in its history, some of them quite tragic. In 1810, it was formalized as a celebration of the royal wedding. In 1811, horse races were repeated and an agricultural show was added. In 1816, carnival booths were added. In 1850, the famous Bavaria statue was erected. In 1854, a cholera outbreak canceled Oktoberfest. In 1866, the Austro-Prussian War canceled it again. And in 1870, the Franco-Prussian War canceled it. In 1873, another cholera outbreak canceled it. In 1887, the Staff and Brewery Parade began. In 1896, the first glass beer mugs were used. From 1914 to 1918, World War I canceled it, and in 1919 and 1920, the event was called Oktoberfest to reflect a more subdued post-war attitude. In 1923 and 1924, high inflation canceled Oktoberfest. From 1939 to 1945, World War II canceled it, with Oktoberfest returning from 1946 to 1948. In 1960, the last of the traditional horse races was held. In 1980, a bomb exploded, killing 13 people, and since 2005, noise levels have been reduced during the day to make the event more family-friendly. Oktoberfest is marked by two dramatic and large parades, one on the opening Saturday and one on the first Sunday of the festival. The grand entry of the Oktoberfest Landlords and Breweries parade takes place just prior to the opening of the festival and involves about 1,000 participants, including the landlords' families in decorated carriages, the magnificent horse-drawn drays of the Munich breweries, waitresses on decorated floats, and all the beer tent bands. The costume and rifleman's procession takes place on the first Sunday and gives an impressive insight into the fascinating diversity of customs rooted in the heart of Bavaria, in Franconia, Swabia, and the states of Germany and in neighboring European countries. Local beer has always been the prime attraction of Oktoberfest, and that tradition continues today with the beer tents. Each beer tent represents the beer of one of the 6 Munich breweries, including Augustiner, Hackerschor, Hofbrau, Löwenbräu, Polaner, and Spaten. The tents are large, sophisticated structures, but they are not permanent. They are set up for the Oktoberfest and used only during the festival. The largest of the tents, the Hofbrau tent, can accommodate up to 10,000 people at a time. The Schottenhamel tent is the oldest and most traditional of the festival, dating back to 1867. Each year, the Schottenhamel tent hosts the traditional opening of the Oktoberfest with the mayor's tapping of the first keg of beer. In the early days of Oktoberfest, the beer was known as Marzenbier, but it was different than what we know today as Marzenbier. Back then, it was a bitter, dark, and high alcohol beer that was brewed in the spring and consumed during the summer and fall. When Oktoberfest formally started in 1810, this was the beer that would have been consumed. In 1841, brewers Anton Dreher and Gabriel Sedlmayr combined to produce a beer that was lighter in body and color than the old Marzen, and that utilized a fairly pale malt known as Vienna malt. The resulting beer was dubbed Marzenbier, brewed the Vienna way by drinkers in Munich. We know the style today as the Vienna Lager. In 1871, the Spaten Brewery of Munich introduced a variation of the Vienna Lager brewed specifically for the Oktoberfest and called it Oktoberfest beer. The Spaten Oktoberfest made use of Munich malt and was essentially a slightly more complex version of the Vienna Lager that it replaced. Today, the beer most commonly consumed at the Oktoberfest festival isn't Oktoberfest beer at all, but the traditional pale lager of Munich, the Munich Helles Lager. These lagers are recognizable by their light golden color. Beer is traditionally served in 1-liter mugs, which means that one Oktoberfest mug holds about 34 ounces, or the equivalent of 3 typical beers. Many of the female servers plan their time off from other jobs to make money and tips at Oktoberfest, but they're well-deserved tips. Servers often carry 8 or more mugs full of beer, which amounts to roughly a 31-pound load. Some servers are adept at carrying even more than that, usually in groups of 6 beers per hand. The music at Oktoberfest ranges from traditional German polkas and songs about drinking to modern dance favorites. Truth is, there are no rules about music at the festival, and every year new favorite songs emerge. Each beer tent has its own bands, and the music varies from tent to tent.
Country roads, take me home to the place I belong.
There's a wide variety of Bavarian specialty foods available at the Oktoberfest. Pretzels are a mainstay, and they pair wonderfully with beer. Gingerbread hearts, or Lebkuchenhers, are popular snacks. Steckerlfish is a marinated grilled fish on a stick that is popular at Oktoberfest, and Wurst, or sausages of various types, are easy to find there. Styles of dress vary widely across Bavaria, but two particular pieces of dress, or Tracht, as the Bavarians would say, have come to be strongly associated with Bavarian tradition. Women often wear a dress known as a dirndl. The dirndl and its apron was well suited for everyday life, especially on the farm. Over time, people began to realize that the dirndl was both practical and attractive, so it persists in popularity to this day. Men have traditionally worn lederhosen, which translates as leather pants. Lederhosen can either be knicker length or longer, and their tradition of wearing leather pants dates back many centuries. With all of the beer and with everyone in good spirits, toasts abound at Oktoberfest. Prost is a common toast that translates as cheers in English. Zum Wohl, another common toast, translates as to the well. Ein Prosit is a phrase that means to your health in English. It's a popular toast and a popular drinking song at Oktoberfest. And as we near the end of our presentation on Oktoberfest, I say to you, Ein Prosit. Congratulations, you've finished the module. Hopefully you have a few minutes to take the optional quiz that is coming up. Like I said, it's optional, but if you are taking a Beer U curriculum and need to get credit for this module, you'll have to take the quiz and get at least 70% of the answers correct in order to show this module is complete. Good luck!